Hey, it's Rabbi Shmuel Paulin. I'm back. You're back. It's the Light Under the Nation show. We're going to rock this show. You're going to love it. This is a global show that is talking about what I'm doing here on YouTube, what it's all about, what life is all about. We're going to cover everything. And we're entitling this video, Why to Be Religious in the Year 2021, because that's really what we want to know. And when I say religious and the word religion, it kind of sounds like something man-made, but it's not. True religion comes from God. It's a revelation from God. So a revelation is a better word than religion. And then you have a relationship. So relationship is a better word than religion as well. You have a relationship with God, and the Jewish people are a family, not a culture. So what binds the Jewish people together is not gefilte fish. It is the fact that they were all born of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And with all that being said, we're still going to use the term religion because that's most common for people and easiest for them to understand what we're talking about. And it helps distinguish between hedonism and atheism, which are the philosophies that I will be rejecting in this video. Now, let's just talk a moment about the American lifestyle, the life that Americans lead. And it's true all around the world. But many have in their life is a life of for their excitement. There's bars and clubs and travel. There's hookups. There's Netflix. There's great food. Working out. Trying to lose weight. Trying to be as good as celebrities is a big part of American life. Trying to be a millionaire is a big part of American life. Shopping, and not all this is all bad. Some can be done in moderation, but this is just the life that people lead, and they're always on this track of doing these types of things. And then a religious person is on a different track, and it may, from the outside, look boring or like the person is missing out on life. Um, some people thought that about the Hasidic videos by Pete Santinello. That maybe they're missing out on something that's insular, but that's because I spend most of my time praying and studying the oral law and doing charity. And that may not look as colorful or as exciting. At the same time, you realize there's something wrong with the typical American way of life. There's something wrong with the way things are going. There's too much depression, too much anxiety, too much addiction, too much loneliness, too much gossip, too much jealousy, too much hatred, too much political infighting, too much divorce, too many broken promises, too much disease, and the blurring of lines, which is causing problems between men and women, a fetus and babies, and good and bad, and modesty and promiscuity, and God and Satan. The lines aren't clear anymore, and that's causing people confusion, and it's taking their quality of life for a dive. So maybe, just maybe, God gave us the answer. Maybe religion, revelation, relationship with God is the answer. And just one indication that that might be the case is addiction, because the number one program for addiction is the 12-step program, which when it started was done by priests in churches and had as its core tenet a belief in God. Now it's just a higher power, but a belief in God was central to helping people out of addiction. So God is helpful for actual practical problems in the world. And I would like to give you 15 ways that religion is superior and how religion can improve your life. And I'm not saying just do this because it's going to help you for the afterlife or because God says so. We'll talk about the afterlife, but I'm really saying this from a purely physical standpoint, a purely scientific physical standpoint about quality of life, about who's living a better life inside and outside. And we're going to go through 15 reasons why the religious lifestyle is actually superior. Number one, in a religious lifestyle, your happiness grows steadily, grows. In a non-religious, secular lifestyle, a selfish lifestyle, you are running your life based on hits of dopamine, trying to get a hit through drugs, through new shoes, through whatever, through alcohol, whatever it is, you're trying to get a hit, and then your happiness afterwards drops, and you need to get another hit. And the extra hit after that has to be even more powerful than the hit you had before because you are now desensitized to that hit. So dopamine is the cycle of going up and down, crashing, going up and crashing again, and getting desensitized. Now, religion works off of a different hormone, and it's called oxytocin. It's the bonding hormone, and it's what makes you feel, it's the feeling you get when you feel closer to God, closer to your family, closer to your church, closer to your synagogue, closer to other people, and through doing good works. You also get shots of oxytocin, but it doesn't come in a shot. It comes as a nice flow, and the more good you do, the more you pray, the deeper you pray, the more pious you are, you get more and more oxytocin, and it grows and grows and grows until some people, like the grand rabbi who started my movement, which is Chabad, he used to roll around on the ground in ecstasy because he had so much oxytocin built up. He had built up such a connection to God that he couldn't even stand it. And many people throughout history have actually died from coming too close to God. And that is because the oxytocin was too much, the pleasure was too much. And God really wants us to stay in this world and make it a home for God. And you can do that through step by step pious activities to increase your oxytocin and make yourself a happier person with no crashes. Number two, just statistically, your odds of getting divorced and having a broken family or getting cheated on, which is one of the most painful things a person can ever go through, the odds of that happening go way down when you're dealing with a religious family who believes that their actions are accountable to God, who believes that their actions matter and that they're being watched and that there's going to be an account of everything they did that's good and everything they did that's bad. That really drops the likelihood that there will be a divorce or cheating on him, because for another reason, a religious person believes in the entity of marriage, the institution of marriage. So even if things aren't going well between the husband and the wife, they hold on to the institution of marriage as that's being valuable. That's valuable. And in that sense, they keep the marriage together, which is the best thing for the kids. And that leads to a whole better generation of people. Number three, we will talk about the afterlife. You are guaranteed a better afterlife. And how do we know there is an afterlife? Because it was scientifically proven in a magazine called The Lancet from Great Britain. And they interviewed people who had near-death experiences, meaning they went up to heaven or hell, and they came back to tell the tale about it. And they all told the tale that there is heaven, there is hell, and what you do in this world does matter as far as which one you are going to. So if you praise Satan in your life just because you think it's cool and you use satanic hand symbols, and you have to realize Satan is the master of hell, and you are basically telling God that I want to go with Satan, I want to go to hell. You're telling God that I want to be in pain, I want to be tortured. Religion wants you to have pleasure in the next world, so you want to go to heaven, and to do that, you want to do the mitzvot, the commandments, whether that be 613 commandments for non-Jews or 613 commandments for Jews and 7 commandments for non-Jews. That will give you a lifetime, even longer than a lifetime, much more than a lifetime of pleasure in heaven. Number four, you will achieve, if you study the Bible and you study the oral law that accompanies the Bible, you will achieve a lot of wisdom that you didn't have before, and the wisdom will help you navigate this world much better than you could before. Number five, you will eventually master prayer if you really commit yourself to a spiritual, religious lifestyle. And through prayer, you can achieve more oxytocin, more pleasure from it. And that feeling when your heart sings and when you hear good news, you can get that with prayer 3, 6 times a day. You can have that feeling. And it drops when the prayer is over, but it doesn't drop too much, and it increases as you go, becomes more and more powerful as you go. Increasing intensity. And number 6 is superpowers. If you're going to connect yourself through his commandments to the King of all kings, the power of all powers, the supreme being, some of that power is going to rub off on you. You're going to become more powerful, and you'll get it by osmosis. And it happened with my mentor who just died in 1994. He was able to do all sorts of miracles. If somebody would ask him for a blessing for a child, he would give them the blessing, and then 9 months later they would have a baby, even if they weren't able to have a baby for decades. And the Baba Sali is another Sadiq, another righteous person, and he used to pour out wine for thousands of people from one wine glass. That's pretty unbelievable, but that's because of his closeness to God. God has superpowers. If you hang around him enough, you get superpowers too. There's also prophecy, being able to know what's happening in the future. That's something like my mentor had, like when there were Scuds in the early 90s coming from Iraq into Israel, and hundreds of Scuds. And my mentor said in advance that nobody will be hurt by the Scuds, which is a pretty bold statement. Scuds are pretty dangerous. And there were a lot of Scuds coming, and nobody was hurt. He had prophecy. He knew that nothing would happen. He knew in the big picture that the Jews were not supposed to be harmed at this time. And so he had prophecy, and that comes from his closeness to the power of all powers, the supreme being. Um, the other reason to be religious is because it's the truth. Um, the Big Bang, which is a random event, cannot explain something as expertly designed as the eye, for instance, but you can take any limb and look at it, and you will realize that takes more effort and intelligence than the Mona Lisa. And could someone just randomly make brush strokes and paint the Mona Lisa? Absolutely not. That would be crazy. It would have to be a person, and it would have to be a person with great intelligence and skill. So obviously, nature, which is even more complex and beautifully designed than the Mona Lisa, would also definitely have to be designed by someone with great intelligence. So that someone is God. If you want more proof that religion is the truth, you should watch my video called 25 Proofs That God is Real, or that God definitely exists. And I'll leave the link to that in the description box. And you should watch that video and learn 25 reasons why God is real. Number 8 is freedom. And I know that seems strange and counterintuitive. What we do living as Hasidic Jews seems like the opposite of freedom. It might seem like we're in some kind of jail. But in reality, we are, in the other sense, in the American secular, selfish lifestyle, you are also not free. You can fall into addictions, and the addiction gets a hold of you, and you're not able to do what you want to do. You're not able to get away from a porn addiction or drinking addiction or OxyContin addiction. You lose your free choice. You can't even do what you want. Whereas the Hasidic Jews have free choice. They can do something evil. They have that choice, but they also cannot do something evil. They're not addicted because they are living with a higher sense of purpose that allows them to do what they really want to do, which is to serve God and to do good things for other people and give value to the world, as opposed to just giving value to yourself. Um, so when a free person is free to help other people, to serve a higher purpose, which someone who's just selfish can't do that. They can't bring themselves to do that. They a lot of times young boys go around streets and try to get uh, gentlemen to put on the tefillin, to put on the holy boxes, which connect you to God, and they don't want to do it. They don't have the free choice to be able to do it. They can't put it on because it would just be like light when trying to they're trying to sleep and they're trying to stay in bed, and the light is shining on them, and it's just like, I can't handle it. Humans can and should give to others altruistically, um, so that they can help. And when we talk about being selfish, a lot of times people bring up the fact that you have to put your mask on the airplane on before you put the mask on the child, and they give that as an example of someone being selfish before they can help other people. But that's not really being selfish. That's putting on the mask so that you can help the other person. You're really focused on the other person, or at least you should be. And to win a game, you want to lace up your sneakers for the game. You don't want to lace it up for yourself to look good. So you're doing it to look good, and someone else is lacing them up to win the game. Which one is going to win that game? The one who is putting it on with the right purpose and the unselfish purpose to give it all to the other players. Um, Number nine, with religion, you are living in the present, and God is always watching. Some people look at that as a bad thing, but it's really a very good thing in that it makes you take every decision that you make seriously, and provides leads you to give the most value to mankind. And you have the option to become crass and angry. You have the option to sin, but you also have the option to remain peaceful. And some people can't remain peaceful. Um, you don't lose anything when you become religious. In fact, you gain in that you're able to do things that your animal instincts wouldn't allow. So your animal instincts want you to be jealous, and with religion and belief in God and belief in a higher purpose, you can be not jealous. You can ignore those animal voices in your head. And voices in your head is really a big thing that determines your quality of life. How you deal with those voices will determine how happy you are. And if you have a godly purpose, you're able to ignore those voices, or in some cases, completely eradicate them. Um, a religious person is a joyful person. There's joy involved. Realizing that there's something out there that's crazy about you. As many rabbis have said, the love that God has for us is like the love the parents would have for a new child when they haven't had children for decades. It's even more than that kind of love. And you can appreciate your gifts that you have every single day, whether it be your vision, which many people don't have, your dog, your ability to stand straight, which other people don't have. You can find more things to be grateful for every minute of the day. And the more gratitude you are, it's a scientific fact, the more happy you are. So gratitude is good for you in every way, and you won't find yourself in the trap of looking at the country and saying it's a racist country, it's a white supremacist country. You will rather look at the good in the country, even if there are problems, but there is also good, and you will be grateful for the good and grateful for your fellow Americans and be in peace with them. 11 is important. It's religion is what makes your parents proud. It's what they grew up with. They grew up in an age where religion was out in the open, and it was sort of assumed by the majority of people. And it's sad that the next generation is mostly going to be atheistic, and we can thank the public school system for that, the teachers union for that. My mentor tried very hard to inject at least some notion of God into the public schools, like a moment of silence, if not a moment of thanks for God, but at least a moment of silence where people would at least think of some kind of higher power, just because that's what we naturally think about when we have a moment of silence. Number 12, we have matchmaking in religion instead of a painful world of awkward pickups and one night stands. It's a lot more dignified way and a lot better way. And even people who don't think they're very attractive will always find a mate using the shidduch system in the Hasidic communities, which means the matchmaking system. It's a blind date, and you spend a lot of time talking to each other about your goals, and so the marriage happens a lot faster than in most cases where it takes at least a year. And the weddings are very festive and joyous, and the marriages last a long time. The number 13 is community. If you're part of a church or a synagogue, you're always going to have people to fall back on in hard times for a word of sympathy or a new way to frame the situation that you're in the eyes of the Bible. What would the Bible say about the situation? Abraham suffered so much. So many people in the Bible suffered so much. We can look through their lens and see the way that they dealt with it and see for ourselves how we should deal with what we're going through. There's nothing more valuable than having a support system when you're going through hard times. Number 14 is the basic idea that you have less shame when you're religious. When you're not religious, you often find yourself making shady decisions in business because God always tests you, or you decide to expose your body in immodest ways because God always tests you and makes you feel like that's the way to get to fame and fortune. If you watch porn, it's not a religious thing to do, and it's going to lead to shame. But if you replace those activities with charity, you will have pride, and you will have a bunch of good decisions that will take you into the highest places in the next world. And number 15, just want to point out that there is an oral law that accompanies the Torah, the Bible, and it's really essential to understand the Bible. And you, if you go through it, there's a lot of disputation, and a lot of mental gymnastics that you have to go through to understand the Talmud. It's very, very intellectually stimulating, and it helped me a lot when I went through law school. In fact, professors took me aside and said, "How do you know this stuff already? You haven't been through this class before." And I said, "I basically haven't been through it before because all these legalistic questions were brought up in the Talmud." So when you're religious, you can learn the Talmud. And since we've now covered why to be religious, the next question is, what religion should I be? And I have a video about that in the description box. So I'll give you those two videos as links in the description. And with God's help and me being a light unto the nations, me helping you find the truth and find a better life, together we will unite, and the unification will bring about the coming of the Messiah. May it be immediately. God bless.